So the US made substantial progress with China. That's the headline that we're getting. And I wanted to do a quick preview of the week, specifically for three stocks that I'm interested in: D-Wave, QBTS, SoundHound, SOUN, ticker symbol SOUN, and ACHR, who reports earnings, ACHR. So we're going to look at these three stocks. This is going to be a quick video. We're going to look at charts, some recent news, and let's jump right in. Okay, so we're going to look at some headlines pretty quick. This is pretty exciting for the markets. We have Fox News headlines: Trump admin and China close on a trade deal with signs pointing to a fairer playing field for America. On CNN, we have U.S. officials emerge from China trade talks touting a deal. We have a Bloomberg article: U.S. China has made substantial progress in talks in Geneva. The reason I bring up these trade talks is because probably China alone is our most important trade partner in the entire world. We get a lot of stuff from China, and a lot of companies rely on supply chains that originate in China, and we export and import a lot of stuff. There's just this monetary relationship that and manufacturing relationship that goes back decades and decades. So for us to come to a deal would be exceptional for the macro in the market. So this also, the price analysis I'm going to do, or the preview, is going to make the assumption that we are potentially going to see a deal. Now, the macro has been, since February, we've seen the CNN fear and greed index down to as low as a 4. We've seen the VIX at 60. We've seen uncertainty and fear really in the driver's seat of the market. So if we're to actually see some relief and deals, not even just with China, but across the board, the market's going to love that. So how's that going to affect our favorite stocks? Well, let's take a look at D-Wave, QBTS, and I actually have the all-time chart pulled up here because I wanted to show you that at one point D-Wave had touched 1331. So I want to create a new line there, because that's going to be another potential level of resistance. So I've called out before that we have triple topped at around this 1192. And we saw a really massive green candle. As you can see, Wednesday at the close, we were trading at $6.85. Friday at the close, we were trading at $11. And if we look at the extended hours, that more or less held up in extended trading hours. So one thing I want to look at if you're trading this is what happened on the way up. So both times we saw a sell-off at market open. So we're going to zoom into this area here so I can show you. We saw a sell-off in QBTS and then a steady uptrend. Now, the reason I'm bringing up the first day of trading is because there was a significant number of rejections at 9:30. And as I get closer to the chart, you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, and then look at this area here, 6 or 7. So this 930 level to me seems to be a pretty interesting level for D-Wave going forward, because we could expect to see potentially some pullback in D-Wave. So some investors that I've been talking to in the comments and in other communities are thinking that this ticker is going to go back down and it's going to follow, myself included, since we've had kind of this wave type of movement. We'd expect maybe that D-Wave would come back down, and we can draw a line here for the rising support. So we're just going to connect bottoms here. So if we looked at something like that in a bearish case, then we would see D wave in the sevens to eights. But I've been giving it some thought, and I think this 937 level might be a new level of support. We know that Rigetti has traded around this $9 or $10 level and has liked this $9 or $10 level. So it seems to make sense from a psychological standpoint that we could see D Wave's new support being at the area that it rejected. My hope to accumulate more shares would be that it goes below the 937 level. So I would target anything below 937 as a potential buy zone. But in the current macro, what I want to talk about today is the concept of price discovery, because we know that really we're just knocking on the door of this triple top. And then we have this 1328 level. When you see the velocity of this move, there's a lot of momentum and volume in the trade. So we could see it test and come down and bounce around this channel and be range bound in the 9 to 13 area. Or what is quite interesting to me is what happens if D wave breaks 13. Then suddenly, I don't think it'll be a clean break above 13. I think it would probably reject. But if it gets above 13, then we're in a fun part of trading stocks called price discovery. So how high can D wave go? So we know that Rigetti was trading at $20 or $21 prior to the quantum crash. Now, once we break this $13 level, who knows? That's the ultra bull case. Now, the bear case is we reject off 11, we come back down, and we use 9 as support. I don't see it going below 9 in a good macro anytime soon. Let me know what you think in the comments below if you agree with that. But that's just kind of my current thinking on QBTS. Let's take a look at SOUN, and I want to pull up. So SoundHound is seeing increasing revenue, reduced cash flow. We see the operating net income. That is not something we like to see. Cost and operating expenditures have increased. We're seeing more assets, but also more liabilities. They seem to be building up their cash. So their revenue growth was 101% year over year. In FY24, it was 84.63%, FY23, 47%. So the growth story is intact for SoundHound. SoundHound, if for those of you who don't know, they're a company, an AI play, a company that's doing a lot with voice-enabled AI technology. So you'd see them at drive-throughs, and they have let's see if we can find their customers. So they have customers like Planet Fitness, Hyundai, Pandora, Nvidia, Samsung, Applebee's. So they've got a nice customer list, a good base. And I do like to see that they are making more money. That's something you want to see in a stock that is a growth stock. So how did they do? What was Wall Street expecting? So they, on May 8th, 2025, they posted an EPS of 0.31 when there was an estimate of negative 0.09. So I don't know if why the stock has traded down, because that's quite a beat there. Their annual revenue continues to increase. So SoundHound looks like the growth story is intact. Let's look at the all-time chart for SoundHound, and we see that looking at this kind of similarly to how we looked at QBTS, there's a pretty clear rising support and it's hanging out close to its rising support. What just happened to QBTS when it was hanging out at its rising support? Well, I think we all know that it bounced with velocity off of that rising support. So that can always be a point to kind of keep your eye on, is if it's getting close to its rising support and if the growth story is intact, perhaps the stock will move. So at one point in 2024, the stock was trading at $25 a share with exceptional velocity and momentum. So if we were to measure a recovery to its all-time high, that would be 150% move. So I'm a SoundHound investor. I believe in the company. I believe in the growth story. I believe in AI and how it's going to change the world. And SoundHound AI is a company that's making money with AI and growing rapidly. So my price target, I would love to see SoundHound in the 14 to 16 area. It has consolidated here before. So I think we could see some retracement and recovery back up to those levels in a good macro. I think macro at the time when it hit its all-time highs was euphoria, FOMO, fear of missing out, that SoundHound was an AI stock that was going to explode and had this crazy growth. And then we've just seen this brutal sell-off in very challenging macro. And to me, SoundHound is at a point now where I'm thinking this is pretty attractively priced. The risk reward is starting to look quite nice when we look at the rising support and the fact that the company is continuing to grow their financials. All right. And last stock for today is ACHR. So ACHR Aviation is just a cool futuristic company. That's one theme with me is I love to invest in the future. The market is forward-looking. Quantum is obviously a forward-looking thing, but so is aircraft that is all electric. So ACHR wants to cut down the commute from downtown Manhattan to Newark from 62 minutes by bus to 9 minutes with I've said this before, but essentially they're passenger carrying drones. It's obviously a lot more complex than that, but for those that are new to the name, ACHR is a fascinating play in the future of aviation in the United States and even abroad. So ACHR has a connection to Palantir. So this was a fairly recent article. We know that ACHR and Palantir are going to work together to build an AI foundation for the future of next-gen aviation technologies. So that's pretty cool. Let's take a look at the all-time chart for ACHR. So at IPO, this stock hit almost $18 a share and it sold off, and it was down in the twos in 2023. And then a lot of volume has come in as they've made headlines and progress and deals. We're going to start seeing test flights like these. The cool thing about these ACHR aircraft is before you know it, you're going to be seeing these things on TV. You're going to be seeing the first flights, and it's going to be awesome. I think ACHR is just a super cool company. From a price perspective, they have been pretty comfortable. I mean, we can do the same thing we did with QBTS and look at rising support. We're well above rising support, and we also have a pretty clear range or channel that ACHR's been comfortable sitting in. This $7.93 to $10. Now, as we've chopped around and breached that $10, we've only stayed there for a little while. And I want to point out again that when it was up at its highs, its 52-week highs, we were at the peak of sentiment and macro was super positive. So ACHR's reporting earnings this coming week. They are very early in their process. I don't have high expectation for earnings. Neither does Wall Street. They expect negative EPS and just a baby amount of revenue. But if they are to beat, or if there's any announcements, or if they're involved in the Newark mess that's happening at that airport, could we see ACHR finally break and hold above 10? I would love to see that. And I do think that a lot of these small cap and growth stocks will benefit from an improved macro. They will benefit the most. So our ticker symbols like ACHR, SoundHound, BigBear.ai are going to love and have fun going into price discovery in a macro environment that's more favorable, where people are more calm and relaxed and are more just interested in the underlying companies and not afraid that their 401k is going to be deleted. So ACHR is one to keep on your radar. So that's the 3 stocks. I'm going to do a quick, just show some love to Big Bear, because I know some of you like me love Big Bear. So I'm going to remove my drawings, and Big Bear, we know, hit $10 recently in the peak of macro, and historically they've hit 16. So Big Bear right now, after earnings, after missing on earnings, what I want you all to take a look at is the rising support is very much intact. We didn't have a massive sell-off after missing earnings and coming down to rising support. In fact, it's been just kind of hanging around this low 3 point. And we know Big Bear can move explosively. We know that $4, $4.50 is a critical level for Big Bear. And it's just one contract away, one big deal away from exploding to the upside. And this is a stock that is one of my favorites irrationally, but I just thought I would do a quick chart analysis. I hope you enjoyed this content. We just did 4 stocks in less than 20 minutes. If I earned it, please consider leaving a like or subscribe. Hope you have a good day.